Hello and welcome to another episode of Gotham Sound TV. I am very, very excited to be with Joe White. Joe, welcome to Gotham Sound TV.
Thank you.
We're here to talk about two movies. We'll do it in two parts. So this is part one, where we're going to do Can You Ever Forgive Me? Which is a movie that you mixed.
Yeah.
And part two will be If Beale Street Could Talk. So, Joe, tell me, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
I wanted to do this because I saw both of those movies and was blown away by particularly the production sound.
Right.
Obviously, that's where we come from. But tell me a little bit about the movie and how you got involved. And
well, a friend of mine was working on the movie. A friend of my sound team, and she was the first AD, and we heard about this film with Melissa McCarthy, and I thought that's very interesting because it sounded like it was a drama, and even though Melissa McCarthy is known for her comedy shtick. And I was like, that's very interesting. I wondered how that would work out. And I began to get really interested, reading about the writer and Mario Heller, the director, and Nicole Hollister, the writer, and all the work that they'd done. And I was like, this is a film I think we want to do.
So for those who aren't familiar with Can You Ever Forgive Me, what's the plot? What's the story?
Well, the plot is, it's a story about Lee Israel, who is a writer who was down on her luck, and she had been prominent many years before, and she was really trying to find a way to still write and make a living, and it turns out she ended up turning to a bit of crime, so in her writing, and things started to snowball, and she was embellishing on letters that she was selling, and it was a very interesting plot.
One of the things I loved about the plot was her crime could only really uniquely be done by her. Right. We'll see some clips and there'll be an example.
That was interesting, because she's such a good writer, but she wasn't appreciated, and then in this crime, she was doing her best work, That was interesting, and at the end of the film, that all coming about, and her realizing this is the best work of my life.
Right. Yeah. I find, for those that when we get together at family gatherings and stuff, and non-film people and even non-sound people, civilians, they gravitate towards thinking about, the action films must be hard to work on. Those are so cool.
Sure. Absolutely.
But I find,
it's not. It's for us, for a sound department, it's not, because a lot of times on these action pictures, even action sequences, we're getting scratch tracked. There's not really any dialogue that's
and not to take away from, maybe there's communication stuff that goes on, but it's the dramas and comedies, and particularly dramas, the words. There's nowhere to hide.
Absolutely.
There's nothing to hide.
Absolutely. And in a lot of great scripts, dialogue driven, it's all the words. It's like that propels the story forward, not the gun being pulled and the door slamming, the car peeling off. It's the words that are doing exactly that. That's
all the heavy lifting
of
everything.
Which is heavy on us, as sound people. I always say there's on a film set, there's 3 people concerned with sound, and everybody else, if you're lucky, and everybody else is concerned with picture. And it's been that way. That's the way it is, and I don't see that ever really changing. And so we have to be uber concerned with what we get, because when they get in post-production, they're looking back like, well, this doesn't sound right, or this doesn't sound this, or this. And it's like, well, there's a reason. You were using 6 cameras, and you had wide, tight, wider, and wider, and then across the universe shot. And we're trying to stay out of the shot, and then we got a wire on a half-naked person.
Right.
It's all so many of those elements, and they don't really have a problem until they get to post, and then they realize what we were trying to tell them on set.
So tell me, like, what are some of the strategies that you employ on set to kind of bring the non-sound crew over to your side and think about what you need to think about?
Well, one of the things is, as sound people, we have to really have great friendships with all the departments. So wardrobe, very important for sound to get along with wardrobe, because they allow us to work with the clothing and getting the mics closer when we have to wire them and things like that nature. Grips, because we need flags to cover lights. We have shadows. Lighting, because there's a buzzing light in this. We have to really be friends and really have to have camaraderie with all these departments just to make sure we can get our job done.
Yeah.
And one of the first things we do is we have to try to create that. As soon as you get on set, you know the people, know who's working each job, know them personally, really, and try to get with them so we're all a team, one team. And then,
is there does anything come to mind on Can You Ever Forgive Me where that happened?
Specifically, well, I think TR Boyce was my boom operator. He's usually my utility person, but my normal boom was directing, and he was doing some other projects.
That's awesome.
So, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And so TR was booming, and TR knew a lot of the people that we were going to be working with, which was great. And like I said, the first AD was a really good friend of TR's, like a neighbor even.
Oh, that's great.
So and she was great, and so that relationship helped us on set.
Yeah. And
so specifically, there's a lot of things that we could kind of get away with because we had the AD with us.
When it comes from the top, ideally the director.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
when it comes from the top like that, it makes it so much easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Did you go on the Scout for Can You Ever Forgive Me?
I went on the Scout. There were went on Scout for some of it. I think I couldn't do a lot of it because I was finishing another project. So I went on some of the Scout, and I sent my utility person on the rest of the Scout, who took very detailed TK to Sant Carvey, and he took very detailed notes about everything, and I was like, that's great, because going into the bar setting and where they already know where everything's needs to be turned off and that stuff. Everything, he was on top of all of that, which was great.
Bars are like a classic example where they look relatively simple, but can be a nightmare for the sound department.
Absolutely. I know that one of the clips we were watching, I remembering the scene. We were there for a couple other scenes, and in the entire stretch of the back of the bar is a mirror. Yeah. And the bottles and stuff. So, but once we try to get a 2-shot of this, and it's like, everything's in the mirror, like everything's in the mirror. Yeah. Also, there's all kinds of refrigeration and things, and so that there's a lot of noise inherent with bars. You don't hear when you walk into a bar because you're not concentrating on it. Right. But if you walk into any bar in New York City and you're not looking to drink, you just walk in and listen. And you'll hear, and turn off the music, and you'll hear so many other, the fan running in the bathroom, because it turns on the fan automatically. Particularly, and
we're slowly sort of setting up our first clip. Yeah. But this scene takes place in the day.
Yeah.
Right?
During day. It's snowing out. Which was real snow.
Oh, interesting.
It's that was a tough day.
That's production value.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all of those sounds, again, there's sort of nothing to hide behind. There's not even like a sort of bed of music that people are dancing to.
Yeah, and it's really, it can be difficult.
Yeah.
At bars, restaurants, Same thing. You walk in, you hear, you just hear music or noise or atmosphere, and to me, it's like, this is noise. I got to get rid of all this, squeaky, benches and things like that.
How did you solve the mirror issue, by the way?
No, there's no real solving it, but we were able to work with set dressing and get bottles positioned in the right places so that we can hide. And then a lot of times we'll have to use two booms when we're booming because we can't move around a lot, because you'll see that in the reflection. Right. But a lot of the shots they did were French overs or something. So you can see a lot of the mirror. And once you get behind the bar, it's a lot easier.
Sure.
And then the direction of where your mic is placed also, because if you're pointing away from the bar, away from some of the noise, sometimes there's street noise behind you, and so you try not to point either way and kind of get a downward angle on the mics. I know that's a little specific, and that's hard to do. It's hard to do in general in bars like that, because you have two really different, like the outside noise or the bar noise that you couldn't get the refrigerator off. So it's tough, but. And
particularly these performances, they're moving around. They're not just sort of planted and talking.
Not planted, yeah. And I think we did do a kind of a medium and a tight at the same time of these shots. And I remember mic choice was important in that situation. Because I'm using the 416s, which have a longer throw than a couple other mics that I would normally use, like the Sheps. And so we were able to get some decent sound, even though we were pushed up a little bit more than we'd like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's watch this clip. So just to set this up, this is the first time where Melissa McCarthy's character, Lee Israel, meets Richard E. Grant's character.
Jack Hawk,
Jack. Or I guess it's this first time in a while.
You're right. The reintroduction.
Right. Who becomes Lee Israel's friend and partner in crime.
Yes.
Let's watch it.
Going through
Lee Israel. Jack Hawk. Last time I saw you, thank you, we were both pleasantly pissed at some horrible book party. Am I right?
It's slowly flooding back to me. You're friends with, Julia something.
Steinberg?
Yeah.
She's not an agent anymore. She died.
She did? Jesus, that's young.
Maybe she didn't die. Maybe she just moved back to the suburbs. I always confuse those two. No, that's right. She got married and had twins.
Better to have died.
Indeed. I've just come from having my teeth bleached. How do they look?
Why would you do that?
Oh, teeth are a dead giveaway.
Okay.
Can I buy you a drink? Even though you're the posh writer.
Thank you.
Craigie, top her up.
So good.
Yeah, it was a very good scene.
Yeah.
And those two are so dynamic together. And when they riff off each other, it's it's amazing what they can come up with.
They're two geniuses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your approach to that. So you saw the blocking. You think, how am I going to? No.
Well, when I saw the blocking, this one was a little simpler. There was one where they're sitting in the corner of the bar, which was a lot more difficult because they're behind the glass window that goes to the outside, and so there was a lot more issues. But on this one, it was fairly simple because they were doing the French overs facing away from the mirror,
right?
For the most part, and but the little wide and tight was concerning. So we did put wires on them because we weren't sure that we'd be able to fight for the just the tight, and the wide wasn't super wide. So I was I think I was pretty happy with what we were getting on the boom, but just as a safety net, we put a wire on. And a lot of times the actors expect it now, you know, because a lot of people wire a lot. And so they were very cool about the wires, and Melissa usually does her own wiring. So
is she good at it?
She's pretty good at it. And she's good at, like, can we move it over? She's like, oh, okay, whatever you want to do. Good. So that's nice. But she likes to do it herself, like put it on. I'm like, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
I understand.
After a long time of doing it, I was like, okay, that's fine. If I can, as long as we can make adjustments and stuff, that's great. I'd enjoy it if all the actors did. Honestly, if they knew what they were doing also. But we approached it that way. But I think they ended up using a lot of the boom, so which is great. The wires sound good. But, I mean, the boom sounded particularly nice, I think, for the most part.
I mean, I think you really get a sense of space, the space in here, and camera perspective. And, I mean, all of the things that I personally really feel is important.
Absolutely.
You know, it's narrative filmmaking especially. These are people that exist in a space.
In a space, not in a vacuum. Of, but it's nice. And also in the back, you can't see, there's a little deep recess in the back. And I stuck a boom mic all the way back there. Just so I can get some atmosphere. So whenever you are mixing because I had to boom each of them, because if they had gone off on a riff or something, I need to get both sides.
Physically, you can't swing one mic.
No, and if you can, that's great. But this way, it's safer. They're far apart. They're good at riffing, and so this way, at least they have it. They might not have that person on camera, but at least you have the dialogue so that you can at least cut it. And you can't cut it if you don't have the other side. It's really difficult. So I had two booms on them, and then in between, you know, and sometimes I'm mixing hard, so I slam the fader all the way down, so that's all the way gone. And sometimes, you know, you need something to fill in the air. And so I know in post, like, I like to give them some air so that they can play with it and make sure they keep it kind of even. Because the two mics are facing different directions. So you're going to get different, you know, a different sound on each. Jack, he was right by the windows, and her mic was facing into the depth of that, you know, that corner. So you want to give them something that could kind of not mask it, but even both out.
Well, I think sort of knowing the kind of psychoacoustics or how, you know, how the sort of neurology of what we notice is really important. And I think, human hearing notices change. I mean, I assume adapted from when we had to survive. But like you can sort of have a consistent noise floor, and it'll sound great if it's consistent. But if it's going back and forth, it's
you know, you notice that. Definitely.
So tell me, what do you see your role as on set?
Well, most sets, I feel like I have to capture and protect performances. So the sound, the sound is a performance. Like the voice and what they're doing is performance. Visually, it's a performance also. So I feel like the DP is protecting the visual performance. I have to protect the audio performance. And so I capture, and hopefully I can help the director realize the full scope of the performance. And I have to record and protect sound. That being, whether it's something like when the two actors there's going to be music playing, and I know that, and the two actors are whispering through a scene. It's like it's never going to mix right if they're whispering through a discotheque, you know, like a club. It's like they're going to be speaking loud, and that's one of the things I think I have to bring it to the attention of the director. Say, hey, listen, you know, how loud is this music going to be? Because yeah, they need to speak up,
Right.
or they need, this is happening or this is not happening.
Do you ever like have a speaker ready to go just for rehearsals?
Yeah, sometimes I always have a speaker ready just in case, but sometimes what we'll do is, and some ADs are really good at it, for the rehearsal, they'll have us play music out loud.
Yep.
And so the actors get used to it.
Yeah, to get a sense memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a show I did where a lot of the actors were pretty brand new. And they're not seasoned actors. So a lot of times we did that so that every take, so that they got used to it. So we had 1 or 2 takes where we just played the music right over the dialogue.
Yeah.
It's like we weren't going to use it, but we had to get them used to speaking at that level. Like, okay, this is going to be loud, so you got to speak up.
I love examples like that where it's technically not the right thing to do, but it's for the greater good of the
absolutely
of the movie.
Perform, and again, you're protecting a performance that is possible. Yeah. What else? What was I saying? The role on set. Yeah. So also, depending on the show. Hey, live stream. Depending on the show, I feel like sometimes I'm teaching. So I'm teaching because not every producer, not every director knows everything that I know about sound, or what we need to get for post. So a lot of times I'm explaining things as I'm trying to do them, and ask them, it's like, can we go again because of this, and this is why. And I feel like, the more I can explain things to the director, the more they'll learn, the more they'll appreciate, the next time they do this. And sometimes you'll remember it. They'll be better directors, I think, in general, if they know all these little pitfalls to avoid and things like that.
It's tricky because you just hope that when they're in the cutting room, they remember, oh, that's why. This, thank goodness we did it this way.
Yes, you hope that. You always hope that, yeah. And you hope that they understood, like, this is why we did this, and like, oh, I now they see the correlation between, what they were doing on set and then why it's important now in post. And a lot of times our work is not really seen until post. I
think that's one of the most challenging things about sound on a set is, everybody can see the image, and especially, everybody's looking at a monitor. And people know there's a post-production process that image goes through, but really we're sort of working in a vacuum.
Absolutely.
My most frustrating but also kind of funny moments are on a set where people can't hear each other. Right. And you're like, it works the same way for us. There's no extra magic that we have.
Right. That's true. That's very true. It's funny that you say that because there's a couple of shows I did that, like an interrogation room, where it's built like a real interrogation room. So you can't hear everything that the other side is saying. So we had a speaker set up in each room so they could hear each other just to get through the scene. Which is like, I'm like, okay, we got to set up the speakers, we got to do this, got to feed that, feed this. And it's like, because they're trying to act, and they, especially, this is when they have the full mask suits on.
I've spent weeks there.
And it's like, that's another tough thing. It's like, they can't hear with I was like, how in the world, and you watch a show and like, how is he hearing? And me knowing like there's no way he could hear out of that mask. How is he hearing? It's not yelling, it's hearing clearly. It's really, but it's a lot of work to do that so the actors can get through it.
I mean, I always wish producers would give us scripts, ahead before they budget. And we can sort of help them. That way, when they say, there's no budget, to, for an interrogation speaker system.
No, exactly. There's something. It's like, we can't do this. Why can't we do? Like, we could do this, but I'm going to have to add speakers to it. We're going to do this and that. I'm like, okay. It's like, but there's like, isn't there a price thing going on? Extra? No. Okay. Or when they say there's 16 people talking, and they're like, we want to do wide and tights and so you want me to wire 16, 17 people, It's like the packages that in the past, it's like you had maybe 6 or 7 wires tops,
Right.
and now you need to carry, twice as many, sometimes 3 times as many. And I'm like, it doesn't always show in the budget, like you said, which is a shame.
Yeah. I mean, it's 6 became the new 4.
Yeah.
Then 8. Now 12 and 18 are sort of like
that's like almost
not unheard of.
Yeah,
as
almost
a regular
normal.
thing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Not that I don't like wires; they're very useful.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a fallback for a lot of producers, like or not producers, but directors, really, because they want to shoot something crazy, and we're trying to work out the boom. Like, why don't you just wire them? Yes, that we can wire them, but the optimal sound is going to be from my microphones, my boom mics, and that's the thing that they don't always get until they get into post. Even when they're watching dailies, which is like, a lot of times the best mix I can make. It's really important for the dailies to sound good, but when they get into the post, that's when they can run into problems with mixing boom mics and wires, and why the close-up sounds like there's like munching on a microphone instead of a nice open sound.
And also, wireless mics, it's not like they cut down on problems.
Right. They think, but they think it's a cure-all for everything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's a lot of noise, so let's just wire them. Like, this is an omnidirectional mic. Now it's like you're actually you might actually be noisier now. It's like you hear the voice more, but you're not going to get rid of the noise that's there.
Or what are we going to do when they talk and hug at the same time?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the kryptonite for wireless mics.
Absolutely. And we talk to actors about that too, because I'm like, hey, listen, every time you talk, you grab your shirt.
Yeah.
Is this a thing that you do? Because I'll try to move the mic, but you're still going to hear some of that rustle.
Right.
And so I'll talk to actors about, sometimes it's hard approaching that subject with actors, some actors. So you have to be careful politically.
Yeah. Talk to me about that. Where do you draw the line when you talk to an actor?
A lot of times I feel it out with the actor themselves. A lot of actors aren't. A lot of seasoned actors are well aware of what needs to be done, and so that's when I tell them, hey, listen, you're slamming the cup every time. It's like a reminder for them, like, oh yeah, you know what, that's right. Okay, I'm going to do that. Because they know that at the end, it's like they won't have to dub a lot. They don't have to concern themselves a lot about that if they take care of these things earlier. Actors that are not seasoned, or some that just don't care, that's a little bit more difficult. And then approaching them becomes you're very delicate. But I do have to do it on a case-by-case basis because some actors you just can't approach with that because they're so wrapped up in what they have to do that this is gonna, them concentrating on the cup being put down on their line is gonna throw them off.
Right.
So you really do have to feel that out. And politically, some actors are like, don't talk to me. And it's like, I'm doing a job, like you do your job, I'm doing mine. Like, okay.
Right.
There's not much you can do at that point. You just, hope for the best. Treat everything that you can.
Treat everything you can, meaning like
like put a coaster down,
coasters.
Work with props and make sure that it's not it's the rubber bag instead of the paper bag because they know they're gonna stuff like that. You can get ahead of, but
even then, that's another classic thing of just wire them. Okay, well then they have this bag with their carrying.
Or they're holding a baby.
Yeah,
it's like all right. I had a scene. We talk about other shows, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I had seen Mr. Robot where Rami goes to this drug dealer. He wants to buy these pills or whatever, and the guy tells him to strip. he does his lines, and they want to do it in kind of one shot. So they do this.
I see where this is going.
They do this. It's like, okay, they do it in one shot. He's talking, and he takes off his clothes. He has more dialogue, and they're doing this wide shot, and I'm like, I'm looking like, okay, so did somebody deliberately do this to make my life difficult? No, they thought it was really interesting, and so I had to figure out a way to wire him for the first part of the scene,
right,
and then how to get the next part where he's just in his underwear, which was I ended up, the guy was standing close enough to him. I used the other guy's wire to catch Rami's lines.
Nice.
And then when we got in really close, we had the boom.
Right.
But we had a boom all the time. Even when it's super wide, I always have the boom in. It's like, a lot of times it's I hate to say it's a safety net, because you get something. So if they needed to cut to something and the wire crapped out, or something happened, or if it wasn't mixing well, or if they wanted to they were only using that shot for a small bit.
Sure.
Like, instead of going from a wire to the boom, they could have a boom track, even though it's wide, and sometimes they can mix that in.
And particularly in TV, that's I find very frustrating is, they'll shoot a wide and a tight, but we all know the scene doesn't play in the wide.
Right.
But where it's killing the ability to boom it.
Yes. I dealt with that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was once, I fill in for mixers now, and I was once complaining about that to the boom operator on the public line, not realizing that the director was still listening.
Right.
And she said, "Oh, well, I can, I can just turn off the wide camera after the first take."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, yes, that's great."
I feel like if you do that more often, they're more often okay with doing something like that. Like I said, just give me 2 passes with the close itself. And it's like, sure, wide and tight, okay, if you fight, they want to get it, they want to use the 2 cameras that they have, fine.
Right.
It's like, just give me 2 shots at this with just the tight.
And whether 2 cameras is more efficient is
right.
a whole other discussion we'll never get out of here. Speaking of which, let's get to the second clip. So the second clip is in a bookstore.
Right.
And I think one of the amazing challenges of this movie are the locations. These are real locations,
yes,
right?
Real locations. The bookstores are tough. Old bookstores, sometimes they have heat that you can't shut off. They have all kinds of things. And then the good thing about it is that it's so filled with stuff that it kind of deadens the room a little bit, which is that's a good thing. Yeah. There's so many other bad things about those places, but that scene is was actually I think the easier of the scenes that we've did in the bookstores. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
Let's watch it.
I thought this one line here was particularly clever, don't you think?
It's wonderful. I love his writing. And Dorothy Parker as well. Caustic wit,
Caustic wit is my religion.
I can't carry it off. You certainly can.
Doesn't help too much in the relationship department.
I'm sure that's not true. Okay, should we settle up?
Yeah.
I know. Cash. This has my number, well, the number of the store. If you're ever in the neighborhood and, want to get a drink or a coffee sometime.
Sounds good. I'd like that.
I don't feel qualified to judge, but the performances are so amazing.
They're very good.
There's like the choices and the beats are so
absolutely
great.
Yeah, they're spot on, and that was really well. When you see the first part of that scene, we did that in the wide shot, and and I had them wired. I used the COS 11s, the Sanken COS 11s on Melissa, but I used B6 on our other actress because it was easier to hide under her.
She had like a turtleneck.
Yeah, it was a little bit. Yeah. So, so the sound was a little different. Like I like to use, depending on the voice, I like to use certain mics. Like DPA sound better on this person at this distance, and but that takes a lot of playing with. The B6s a lot, have been universally really good at wherever you put it, but it still sounds a little different, when you're trying to balance these two actresses. And then the wide shot, I wasn't happy with. It was good, clean sound. I wasn't happy with the tone of it, the full frequency, the frequency range of that. So I think I mentioned that once, and they said, we're just going to use the wide for a part of it.
It's just for the geography.
Yeah, and I'm like,
it's great.
All right, that's good.
Yeah.
2 416s were set, and the Sennheiser 416s, and they sound beautifully, especially in a room where mic like that has a long throw. Yeah. So sometimes you get caught with reflected sound and picking that up. In this Bookstore, it was not a lot of that. It was really fairly easy. The worst part about that, sir, was the floor. It was really creaky.
Old Bookstore. Yeah.
And so we were laying down carpets on either side, and you still hear some of the creak, but at least you don't hear too much of it. And that was tough. Otherwise, the 416 sounded great in that space, and even when they wanted to do a little bit wider, it's like, okay. Yeah, we got a foot or two, that I'm comfortable with, and especially pumping it up in there, you can. It was fairly quiet. It was a fairly quiet Bookstore. Even the traffic was not so bad when we did the scene by the register. So it was nice. It was probably the easier of the scenes I think we did.
That's great, and it really shows. And it's nice to sort of like have that trust. Really, the wide shot really only was used for geography. Established their movement. Absolutely. And then coming close where the performance is.
Yeah. And that's important to the actors too, I think. They need to know that a lot of the older actors that I've worked with that have done hundreds of films, hundreds of TV shows, they do their best work in the close-up because they know, like, this wide shot is just... it's meat puppets in the frame, and like so they get their some of their best performances of when they get closer because they know that they're gauging themselves and they know how to do that, and that's great. And Melissa's an excellent actor, and so she's always on. Like she does, every take was a great performance, but she seemed comfortable doing that. She wanted to always be a great performance. So it's amazing because I think, like rises, what is it? The rising tide rises all boats kind of thing. Yes. You rise to that occasion. Absolutely. You do. You really do. And again, the other actor in the scene was excellent. And everything Melissa was giving, she was giving also. So it's like give and take.
There's such a great dynamic.
Yeah. It was very cool.
Now, the last clip we're going to see, when I saw this, I was completely in the movie, and then we got to this location, and I was like, oh, I feel bad for this. It was before I knew you mixed it. Right. I was like, oh, that whoever did sound really had a tough day that day. So this is as Lee Israel's world comes crashing down. She sort of gets a call where she's hoping to sort of make some quick cash, but really it's the opposite. So let's watch this third clip.
Hello? Alan?
You got my messages. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I brought some wonderful Faulkners that I unearthed.
Not why I called. Listen, the FBI has been in here to see me.
The FBI?
They asked me to wear a wire. I'm not gonna do that to you. I'm a good guy. And if they want me to be a witness, I'll lie. But you are going to pay me $5,000.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, come on, I'm not going to rat you out or anything.
Oh, that's very generous of you. I don't have $5,000.
You're a clever woman. Figure it out.
Yeah. It was a lot. That was a good scene. It was a good scene. I like the pushing as they're doing. It's really slow and small, but it caused there's a very small space.
Yeah.
So it's on a slider, I think, and it's taking up a bunch of room, and there's just barely room for Melissa to be in this, when they're doing the pushing on him.
To keep the eye line consistent and all that, yeah.
So it was a lot of, that bookstore was so small.
Yeah.
It was so, and narrow. The floor was all creaky. The door, I had to put a mic by the door because it was such a, specific sound, and you hear, that noise, and it was, it closed.
The main entrance.
The main entrance door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to get that. Because it was too, like when you hear something like that, it's like you could spray it down so it sounds, so it sounds quieter. But it was like, it became to me like it was a character in this, like this door opening. So I was like, I had a plant mic to just record that. And then I had TR and all the way on the other end. I still had to use two booms. I tried to use two booms the entire time, but so little room.
Yeah.
So I think this is one instance where after a take, we had to just TK was in there also. He said, "Say forget it. You can't fit another boom in there to get both sides." So I had to rely on the wires that I had put on them for the off camera.
Got it.
But they weren't going back and forth. They weren't really riffing off.
This was a scene about very specific call and response
and
moments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they stuck to script, and so it wasn't like I needed to get it anyway. But I always try to get it. But that space was so small, it was ridiculous.
Oh, I want to break it down into two things. One, I hear you really making choices that enhance the performance and the storytelling. Right. And then also I want to get to like stuff you had to do to like attenuate some real world stuff. So all different, we have an audience of very experienced people and people starting out.
Right.
And so the door effect is interesting, and I want to kind of talk around it for a second.
Right.
Do you have a hierarchy of priorities when you're on set, and if so, what is that?
Yes. Well, right from the get-go, when you do a blocking rehearsal, one of the things that, like, TR is usually my third, TR voice, and one of the things he's looking for is noises. So it gets quiet, we do blocking, and he's listening for refrigerators, creaky floors, creaky doors, windows that are pried open, stuff like that. And he's listening and trying to figure that, what to kill. Myself, I'm looking for the dialogue itself. Like, the dialogue is of paramount importance to me. So, like, how can I get it? Are they yelling? Is it going to be really quiet? Are they speaking into a phone? Are they going somewhere? It's like, how is the voice and going to be? How will I need to treat the voice and get it? All the dialogue, and so dialogue is my primary concern. The first thing. Then is effects. So effects and ambience. Ambience is really important, but dialogue is more important.
Yeah, right.
So if the next thing, ambience is kind of like, okay, well, can I get it while we're shooting the scene?
Right.
Because I love to do that. Even if they can't really use all of it, it's like those spaces that they have, it's like you can pull stuff from that. And if things are happening while they're speaking and I'm recording, they have an odd chance to work with even any noises that come about too. Otherwise, ambience after the scene and just get a quiet room tone. But that's secondary.
Right.
And then these little effects are probably third. Yeah, even though sometimes they become like a character, because the way I think in post, like if I was watching this movie, I'm like, it would be really interesting to have this, or it's like, oh, that's a cool sound. I was like, I'm gonna record it because, you know, maybe they can use it for this, and so it's really, that's kind of the order I do things in, like,
I mean,
voice and dialogue first.
As a moviegoer, when sound design becomes an emotional choice instead of a
Right.
logical one,
Right.
it's great.
Yeah.
And your answer is so consistent with how you approach that door sound.
Right.
Like if it were if it were over dialogue,
Right.
that would be a different thing.
Absolutely.
And TR would
Absolutely.
work his magic with WD-40 and all
Absolutely.
the other stuff.
Absolutely.
But no, to know that's you know, and it's so prominent in that opening shot.
Absolutely.
And you know, look, maybe they agree with you, maybe they don't.
Right.
In post,
And they cannot use it, they can use it, but it's there.
Yeah.
And it's on a separate track so that they can really play with it if they really want. And it's close enough that it's, and also they can use that mic as ambient too. It's so far back, you know.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things like, well, we should have this.
Yeah.
Even if it's like, it's an extra microphone, we should have this just to have it. But it's, you know, I just wanted to say, I learned that a lot of that, not a lot of that stuff, some of that stuff I learned from some of the mixers I worked with, because I was a boom operator for a long time, and I was always listening. So Jimmy Sabat used to love to leave things natural. It's like he wants to hear. It's like, oh no, it's a nice sound. That's a nice sound. We should record that. Drove me crazy, but it's like, but you know, he was always listening to the end product. Like, it's like, that would be really nice. This is really nice. Like, no, leave that. I want to hear the footsteps on this one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But and I think, you know, and a lot of things that, if we can get it, you know, on set, I'd love to get stuff like that. I'd love to do even wild tracks of like different things that happen on set, like in these locations that we won't have in the next location, or we won't have in the studio. You know, so you get these little, you know, like the old telephones that they don't have anymore. You pick up and put down. It's like, that's a different sound. It's like, that's a different sound, like with the ring, not, you know, hearing it out loud with the ring.
Yes.
You know, all that stuff. It's like,
try explaining that to a child.
it's like, what's that wheel? Like, how's the buttons? Like,
I want to get back to your booming experience and how you got into this business in a minute.
Okay.
But talking about this location, how did you deal with the floor and the noises there when everybody's sort of crowded around?
Yeah, it's tough. When the first shot, you see the entire floor.
Yeah,
she's not talking until, you know, she gets to the end of that. But the creakiness of it, once you have a bunch of people standing on it too, sometimes it gets better and sometimes it gets worse. So every chance we got, we put carpets down. Now it doesn't kill the creak, but it does deaden it a little bit, and it helps with the footfalls and stuff like that and shuffling. Right. So I deal with a lot of carpet when I can.
Do you carry carpets as part of your kit?
I carry a bunch of carpets. Probably like 6 or 7 right now. I used to carry more. On other shows where I had to use it a lot, I was carrying 12, 13 carpets, long runners. But it's hard. They're hard to hide. And
marks are always, you know, transferring marks.
And it's labor intensive, like, you know, really taking care of it, but it's well worth it for a sound deadening reasons and for, you know, quieting noisy floors and footfalls. So I do carry a lot of carpets. Yeah, not a lot, but.
Yeah, New York City, I think in particular, with practical locations, have some of the loudest floors ever. And I've tried, you know, buckets of water,
Right,
you know,
yeah,
like finishing
yeah.
nails, and
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
you know, things that I would,
Yeah.
you know, hesitate.
Right. Murphy's oil works great.
Yeah.
I let it soak in for a day. If you go to a tag scout and its floors are really creaky and nobody owns it, you start just pouring Murphy's oil and let it sit.
Yeah.
And it's like that works wonders. You can't do that, you know, for the most part, but it does actually work. I learned that trick from somebody.
Yeah.
I like, and sometimes just accidentally spill a cup of water. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Let's just rub
Just
that
let
in.
it
Yeah, let
soak
it
in. Yeah.
I don't suggest doing that,
No,
but
no.
yeah, but you know, you try anything sometimes with some of these.
But I think, you know, that's something that moviegoers should keep in mind with practical urban locations. You know, it's we're fighting stuff that
Absolutely
to protect the dialogue that
Yeah.
you know you just don't have to fight in a studio.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of stuff.
Let's circle back for a second, and in a funny way, you know, maybe we could wrap up our discussion this way. But
Okay.
How did you get involved in sound?
That is, I don't know if it's an interesting story, but
I'm interested.
I was, when I went to college, I was going as a musician.
Mm-hmm.
I loved movies. I loved film. And I wanted that to be part of my, you know, life, my career. But what I wanted to do was score films. I wanted to write music. I wanted to sound design. I didn't know everything that it entailed, sound design, but I wanted to, because I always thought of, like, I was a musician, I was a composer, and I wanted to do that, but I loved the sound of the movies, and not necessarily the dialogue, but all the trappings around it, what made, you know, the emotional sense of the music and the sound effects and stuff like that. So I went to school for film and for music, which was tough. And
Where did you go to school?
I went to New York Tech at first, and I was going for film and communication, and then I went to Brooklyn College for music and film. That's where I met quite a few people that I've worked with over the years, which was great.
Yeah.
And so I started scoring films. I started writing music for films, and which was great and terrible at the once, because I started to realize that directors didn't always want what they wanted. They don't always like give you carte blanche to write what you felt the scene really needed.
Right.
And so they were very specific about what they wanted or didn't want. And I'm like, no, this is going to sound great. You know, like, we're going to use just woodwinds for this. And, you know, because we're out, you know, they're walking through the weeds, you have this reedy feel. And they're like, no, I want, you know, this is where the electric guitar is in the bed. I'm like, what? You want to? Okay, really? And so I realized that I wasn't going to get it. I felt like I wasn't going to get a chance to really express myself completely, because I'll have, you know, the director, it's their movie,
their vision,
it's their vision. So, and I was asked at one point to, the scene was described to me, and they were like, well, it's going to sound like, you know, this part of the Rite of Spring and this part of the Rite of Spring. I was like, so you want me to rewrite the Rite of Spring? Is that what you're telling me? And it's like, yeah, you know, just, you know, I'm like,
Change a few notes.
yeah, I'm like, why don't you just use the Rite of Spring then? And at that point I was like, okay, this is not going to work. And one of the guys that I wrote his score for, his film, he was doing another movie, and he asked me to do the sound recording, because he knew I recorded all the music that I had, you know, because I was a studio engineer already.
Yeah.
So I had gone to school earlier at New York Tech for audio recording also. So, and I partly owned a studio. And so he's like, oh, you can record my next film, you know, on set. And I was like, sure. Having no idea. I'm like, oh my God, this is not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And it was like, I thought we were going to be sitting in a stage, like we're in a car, like, I don't, what are we doing? That's amazing. And so I started to learn, and that's how I started to learn, like, production sound. And it got really interesting, because to me, it was creative, even though it's technical, and it was creative to me because the way we had to get stuff and things that we had to do, and I was learning more and more. And the sound course at Brooklyn was excellent because Bill Cozy was running the sound course, and it was you know and he really pushed the kids to explore and understand all parts of filming as well as sound, but he it was very interesting. So that's how I started to get drawn into sound and sound recording on set. I'd done studio. I'd done studio work. I composed, and I was like, this is kind of like that. This is kind of like a mix of things. So yeah, I could do this.
And then you started booming.
I started booming, and commercials and stuff like that, and after that, I never looked back, I guess. I still write music, but I don't try to score films or anything like that.
But I imagine that your music background, your scoring background, and your booming background all inform your mixing.
Yes. Yes. I think so, especially the composing part, maybe not as much. Knowing music, yes. Especially when you're dealing with when we're recording music live. Like we've done that a bunch of times on different sets I've worked with. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm used to doing that. I could do that. And
there's something very powerful about being able to talk to a musician, having walked in their shoes, and being able to talk to a boom operator, having walked in their shoes.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Can you think of an example?
Well, as a boom operator, when I was booming, it's when you're working with a mixer who's never boomed before and trying to explain the issue and try like, okay, I'm telling the mixer, like, you're gonna have to take this here because there's, he turns around at the door and there's no way for me to get to the other side. Right. And it's like, so we could plan something or we can wire them, but it's like, well, why can't you get it? Like, what are you talking about? I just thought, it's like,
that's not the discussion.
This, like, I'm just, trust me, this is, we'll get it, but this is the way we're gonna have to attack it, or I'll have a second boom out there. And so it's a lot easier if somebody who's been, spent time in the trenches on set to know, like, there's, it's like, I don't have a huge shadow on this thing. And I'm like, oh, I understand what you're saying. Like, so go for this part of the line. It's like, I'll get it here. You go for this part or go for that part. Or it's like, or no, I got this one on the wires, and you pick it up at the end. Right. Stuff like that. And it's like, just having known what they're going through on set is really helpful with boom operators, especially when I was booming. It was very helpful. Like T.J. O'Mara was a boom operator, and I worked with him for a bunch. He understood Todd Maitland. He understood the whole set thing. And but there's a bunch of people that have not really spent years and years and years, fine tuning that art of booming. Right. And that it's difficult when you work with them to really explain, unless they have absolute trust in you.
Right. I think that, I mean, you owe it to your boom operator to have that.
Absolutely. You have to trust them. You have to support them on set. But you have to know when you need to step in, too. Yeah, and that's important.
And how to step in.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny. We do have to wrap this up. We can talk all day, and luckily we will. There's a part 2. Right. But I wonder if you can give us a sense of, how much your day is spent dealing with technical, sort of nerdy physics issues versus interpersonal issues.
Right. I think mostly it's technical issues most of the day, or not issues, just processes. So we know, like, we go into the blocking. Fairly easy scene. We know what we have to do. We, each, and we work with a group of people long enough. Jason Benjamin and TR Boys have been my crew for the last 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
So we know what we need to do.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not really a question, only if there's a huge issue. And even when there's a big issue, it's not really an issue because we've been through it so many times.
Right.
It's not really anything new coming. It's just variations on other problems that we've had, and we just deal with it. Doing like, okay, yeah, this is the problem. Yeah, I saw that. So we're here, blah blah blah. Okay, we got that. And so it's technical things that we're doing all day, for the most part. The interpersonal with interaction with directors and producers and actors, like, I think we're getting a lot. We fine-tune that a lot. I'm the one who had to learn the most about how to interact with producers because I've been on set. I know I interact with directors, actors, and stuff like that. So does TR, so does Jason. It's the producers that I had as a boom operator. You don't have a real dealing with.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn from other people that have done that side before, like Todd Maitland, who is an excellent with dealing with producers and productions and any of the above the line people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like the mixers that are really good at that. I can imagine them being a producer someday.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, there's several times where I was working with Todd where he was sitting with the producers and and they're just the producers. It's like, that's producers. Okay, I know what I have to do. It's like he's doing what he has to do.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that aspect of mixing. That was the biggest, I think, the biggest leap for me.
Yeah.
And, going from booming to mixing was how to deal with, above the line. And
Do you have any practical pointers to people that are starting out or struggling with that?
watch other people. Work with people that are really good at it, and learn from the people that have been doing it for years. That's to really understand that part. You can't just do it and try to figure it out. Yeah. Watch people do it. There's people that have done this for a long time. Get with them. Get in their heads. Work with them if you can, and learn from their experiences, and watch them.
I think that's good advice in general.
I think so too. I took that
in a house or
exactly.
Doing sound.
Watch masters do it, and decide for yourself what parts you understood, didn't understand, didn't liked, but learn from them. It doesn't have, you don't have to do exactly what they do, but learn from what they're doing. Yeah,
it's huge. Thank you, Joe.
Absolutely.
We're going to continue part 2. Part 2 we'll be looking at clips from If Beale Street Could Talk, and we will be talking to re-recording mixer Annalie Blank. So yeah, please stay tuned. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.